Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order, please. Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Some of the richest, many of them in the Trump cabinet,
Okay. You may need to mute. Are we ready? Allegiance.
For which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice.
justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our fallen and injured emergency responders. Both local and international. Okay. Thank you.
It's picking up a lot of background.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chief. I'll turn the TV off. I apologize.
Thank you.
Okay, we have the minutes of February 13th. I need a motion to approve in a second.
A motion.
Alec? And- Okay, any comments, any changes that people need?
No.
Okay, call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No. Okay, we have the minutes from February 26th special meeting. I need a motion.
Motion.
And second,
Seconded by Ginny.
any discussion, changes, anything we need? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. We're now moving on to reports. My report is changed as an agenda item in terms of the charter revision, so I will hold my comments until then. So Chief, you're up.
Sorry, I'm watching the waiting room because I have that on now, so that's why. So in regard to the budget, last week we went through the capital budget, or the last couple of weeks, to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. Tonight after this, we have the pleasure of going to the Board of Finance for the operational budget. We had asked in personnel, I think we had told you that we had asked for, Roger's going to speak about fire inspector. I'm sorry, I won't mention that. The assistant chief and lieutenant promotional exams were completed yesterday with some reviews going on today. We got into our hands the list and we will present that to you later. First two record management training for chief officers will be on March 18th, and we're heating up the amount of meetings now that we're away from the promotional process and the OSHA consultation that we had. So we're doing configurations of the background with meetings with them for the NFIRS, scheduling reports and fire inspections in the next month. And so we're hoping for a go live date for a couple of the modules on May 1st. So we'll keep you apprised on that. The radio update, let's see. I want to double check. Yes, so the radio update, the cutover already took place, and we're well, I just thought I had some of those here. Yeah, so radio took place, and so we're working well. There's a couple of things we're trying to iron out, but the communications have been going very well. In the realm of emergency management, since Norma's not going to be on tonight, she just wanted to say that their new class that starts, that's been held for the 5 Saturdays of March, has 20 new candidates. And so I had the pleasure of teaching one of the classes on the first day, which was on the first Saturday of March. On the last Saturday of March, they will graduate. Plus, they have 2 transfers from other CERT organizations. So what we do is we go through a vetting process. First of all, we check with their old CERT place to see if they're good candidates, and then we still do another vetting process with the police department on that. And for the rest, and that's the end of mine. I kept it short tonight because I know we have a lot of items on the agenda.
Commissioners, any questions? Okay. Deputy Chief, whichever one is happening.
As far as facilities, the facilities that we're continuing obviously to upgrade them as much as we can. The air project continues. We just started station 1, 2 to 3 days ago. And this is to help with the air quality inside the stations. We got our extractor, washer, cleaner over at Breeze that's ready to be programmed by the dealer. The town has finished that. We've had some issues with station 1 with the bathrooms leaking.
I'm going.
It's problematic, but the town is aware of it. The Board of Finance has been through the stations and they see what's going on and they're gonna do their best to give us what we need to upgrade the stations so that they're serviceable. As far as operational stuff, we had 1,256 unit responses last month, 2,817 for the year so far. Brush fire danger is very high again. We just had one earlier today, but I'm sure you see the news, they're more and more prevalent. We're worried about that. We had 2 structure fires this past month. One was at 152 Stratfield, which was an oven fire. Quickly knocked down by arriving units. The other one was a little more extensive at Beechwood Road. That came in as the smoke in the building from the occupant who was in there. Fortunately, her children had taken some of our fire safety classes. She opened the door, saw heavy smoke, closed the door, and the fire was contained to the garage. Companies quickly got there, knocked it down, but it's one of the ripple effects of some of the stuff that we do in the community. Yeah, and it saved the majority of the house. They were living in that house that night and they lost everything that was in the garage. So it's interesting to look at that. One other thing of interest that we had was Metro North railroad tracks. We had a catenary wire snap off of its base, hang low, and had something hanging in front of a train. So when we talk about the new radio systems, we were quickly able to switch over to Metro North's operational channel, advise them the situation, which our dispatcher was doing simultaneously to shut that down, because the voltages over 13,000 volts. If a train came through at 70 miles an hour, I can only imagine what damage would have caused. So that it's just another aspect of what we're doing with the radio communications that's really helping. We will be talking on Chief Case will be talking about that, but we're planning a new officer onboarding class for next week for the new officers who are getting promoted. So something we did with the last bunch. So that's what I've got for that so far.
Questions, Chief? Commissioners?
Off topic and this, because it's your terrific idea from a couple of months ago, and it's more of us collectively. We talked about an award for the people at Ward High School that responded and I don't know if we dropped the ball.
No, it's in the hopper because it's trying to, he wasn't exactly where we needed him to be here, so we wanted to give him another month to get a little stronger.
Good. Make sure, because you guys are running a million different directions, so we didn't drop the ball.
No, that's on us, and tonight's another night where we're strapped for time, so.
Got it.
Is there also an appropriate level or even a letter to the child that essentially instructed mom what to do?
No, we had an extensive talk with the mother on, and she was like, I learned it from my son, it was one of those great things
Right.
where.
No, but I mean, even a congratulations or thank you letter to the son from the chief.
I'll talk to the fire marshal about it.
Yeah,
and the chief.
or the fire marshal, one of
Certainly
them.
do something, but
Yeah.
it definitely made the difference in that house, and that's the whole, close the door and it contains it to where it is, so.
Right. But in the context of spread that word,
Mhm.
that family gets a letter.
Yeah.
It-
Okay.
You know, and the kid starts to talk about it, that reinforces it at school.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I have only one question, just for the Board of Finance. It sounded like maybe, was there a commitment to make sure they fix the station for the bathroom with these guys?
So I spent 2 weekends going through all the stations with them, and we did it in 2 different groups, myself and the chief was there, and they saw the deplorable condition that some of them are in, and I think it's just a matter of getting that money together to figure out exactly how they're gonna fund it to fix it, because some of them are in rough shape.
Yeah, there's nobody's fault on their side that's happening.
No,
But it
but we just
happened.
gotta fix it.
Needs to be addressed. The guy, I mean, it's not fair to leave the stations like that for the firemen, so.
We've been putting Band-Aids on it for a lot, but they need a little more than Band-Aids this time. And the town DPW does a tremendous job coming out and fixing things. If I put something in, they're out the next day to evaluate it. Sometimes we're there at 10 o'clock at night. If there's a sewer backup or something like that, those guys are top notch. We're really fortunate to have them at our, when we need them. So we really appreciate them too.
Letter of support from us reinforcing the importance of getting this done now be helpful, just be OB at this point.
I would leave that up to the chief. I'm not sure what he would, he's working with, the financial side of it with the town, so he would know. Would you think that would be a good, chief? Yeah, then, yeah.
Okay,
Now we're under new business.
yes, take that up under new business. Thank you. That will solve that.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief.
Any other questions? Okay, Chief Case?
Yeah, from a personnel perspective, we've had a very busy month with promotional testing and everything that went along with that. But as a part of that, we have a very special event in recognition of Provisional Lieutenant Vaporis's retirement. With the promotions, Craig has accepted the role of retirement, and after 43 years of service, he's going to move on.
And thank you.
Years.
Appreciate your service over the years.
With your permission, the chief would like to read something to.
Please. Go ahead.
It's the letter that we'll be sending to him. Dear Lieutenant Vaporis, as you prepare to retire after an incredible 43 years of dedicated service, I wanted to take a moment to express our deep appreciation for your remarkable career. Your unwavering commitment to protecting our community and the countless lives you've touched throughout your service is truly commendable. Your bravery in the face of danger, your dedication to your fellow firefighters, and your warm-hearted approach to serving the public have left an indelible mark on everyone who has had the privilege to work alongside you or benefit from your service. Thank you once again for your service and dedication. Lieutenant Craig Vaporis, badge 124, B Platoon.
Pin for Craig that we do for decades of service. Unfortunately, he's not gonna make it to 50 years. We're pretty happy that he made it to 40. 43. Thanks.
Great.
A couple of questions then. Is he the longest serving firefighter currently?
The longest serving?
George Mola might be the only one that has them for departments.
1 year more.
44?
And you got an August of 81?
August 1981.
Okay, I was October 81, so you even beat me, so. That's awesome.
So,
Okay.
and then what, do we know who the longest serving ever is in the department?
Chief
Gary
Feldman.
Fellner, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say Chief Feldman.
Yeah.
470.
It was over 50.
Yeah, it was over, I think it was 56.
Do you want to say anything? You don't have to, but if you want to.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I have a few more things under
Go right
personnel.
ahead.
We are very grateful to Craig for
Yeah,
not
thank
only
you
the
for
service,
doing
but
this.
everything
Thank
that
you
he's
for coming.
imparted on us along the years. It's institutional knowledge that will never go away unless he comes by for coffee or maybe Diet Pepsi
In a bagel.
and a bagel. Okay, moving on from there, in our fire marshal's office, we currently have 3 members in training to step into roles in the fire marshal's office as we have some transition going on there. One of those members is going to be finishing in April and be able to come in and start being effective in the office with a complete certification. So we're looking forward to that. The chief said that we had our testing process. We had a total of 35 members taking promotional exams between lieutenant and assistant chief. And we're very happy to provide you tonight with the list of those who passed in order for both ranks of lieutenant and assistant chief. And we look forward to that list promulgation. We have 4 active vacancies for lieutenant at this point. We have no vacancies for assistant chief. And the last thing I have in personnel is thanks to your support which myself and Chief Barry appreciate very much. On the 28th, we were able to become permanent in our positions with the town of Fairfield. So we're here ready to serve and continue moving forward into the future. We greatly appreciate your faith in us to keep this job going and get it done.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate your service and support.
And that concludes personnel.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions? Before we move on. Okay, CERT we covered, the chief covered that for us. Nobody here from Southport or Stratfield, correct? Okay. Local 1426, not. Donations. I didn't remember the packet. Do we have any in the packet this year, this month? We have the complimentary letter from Mr. Rudy, I think is the way you pronounce it. That's College Park Drive. But that's all I see. Am I missing anything, commissioners? Okay.
Copy the letter from Dr. already been acknowledged.
Yes. Old business, Charter Revision Commission. We're gonna share this screen, Chief, thank you. So this Charter Revision Commission, the 24-25, has done, I think, a pretty extraordinary job of trying to gather input and even more importantly, going back to the stakeholders to say, we got this input from Y, do you have anything you want to comment? And so I had not been aware, because we were not sent a copy, that HR Director Kathleen Simpson had sent a set of comments to the Charter Revision Commission that you can find under her January date. I'm not gonna go try to through all of them. They were back and forth between Fire Commission and Police Commission and addressed a lot of different things. But what I wanted to come back here for, and I'll get more into the comments, is to brief the commission on what the Charter Revision Commission is doing, which I will now call CRC. It's too long to bother with the rest of it. And see whether we are comfortable in endorsing them. The first thing. Let's go forward. Oh, I did not know it had titles loaded. Okay. The language that's highlighted is the language that we recommended changing, and we recommended changing it by either taking it out or creating contiguous counties or doing a mile radius. They actually went through and had, I thought, a pretty good argument. They are concerned that taking it out could, they took us, what they're doing as they go along is a sense of the body and getting votes accumulating where they've had a long discussion so they don't lose the trail of thought. So in a subsequent meeting, based on our earlier input, they had a whole discussion and they voted to use a 25-mile radius and resident of Connecticut. Their concern was that by stripping residency for fire and police, I'm not going to go into the other town departments because they discussed those too. It could lead to voter backlash and an effort to defeat the proposed Charter Revision Commissions. Personally, I don't like the 25-mile radius because my scenario is you know, what if I'm chief and my town redistricts and I have to move someplace in my original town in order to stay in the school district for my kids, but it puts me out of the 25 miles. And I certainly wouldn't want to be the one having to administer checking this on a regular basis. But the question is what the commission wants. And do you want to just let what they've said stand and endorse it? Or do you want to go back and reconfirm that we have a problem with 25 miles? If you do, and would prefer contiguous counties or contiguous counties by 2, and they want a resident of Connecticut, and I can understand that, that also solves the 25-mile radius issue because you're not in Long Island. Everybody brings this up, so thoughts on the commission basis of what you're interested in?
They took out the option of not having it there altogether. They want something
Yes,
there.
they took that out, and listening to them, I don't think we can sell it, period.
I mean, when the chief is off duty, right, the chief, for recall from a major fire is really where this becomes a concern. Obviously, but with
Yes, but they talked about it, and we tried to straighten this out, as though literally the quote was, well, if the chief needs to pick up a hose. My response was, if the chief picks up a hose, we have much more serious problems.
Bigger problem.
And that his bigger issue is managing the overall, maybe he needs to get more resources for somebody or gets resources for the rest of the town coverage and those kinds of things. But most of those are covered under mutual aid. And so at least some of the CRC commissioners understood that incident response for a chief does have digital support. And it's not as much. Turns out the police contract actually has a 25-mile radius in it. It's the fire truck contract that doesn't have any radius. And HR, I believe, my understanding is they would like to get it done in the charter so that they can also negotiate that in the labor contract.
Right. I mean, I would argue contiguous counties knocks out the Long Island problem. It's not contiguous, it's across the body of water, unless we're
Right.
gonna argue about that. And counties and their contiguous counties would be consistent with larger departments in the area, including New York and the others. So, I mean, we also, well, I think we pay to take care of our professionals. I don't think we pay a significant amount to put more geographic restrictions. I'd like to give more freedom of movement to people to be able to live where they want, and that's a reasonable distance to be able to be here. So if it was up to me, if you're asking for a sense, I would say contiguous counties and their contiguous counties and a resident of Connecticut if I had to choose.
Commissioner?
Resident Connecticut, is that just to pass it through possible voter backlash?
Yeah, they felt it was a better thing, and I don't think it's a problem if you're gonna be living in the area, you're gonna probably be a resident of Connecticut unless you're doing something by Florida, and then you're not in the state for 6 months, so, you know.
I mean, that is truthful, but it's not factual, right? Like, I'm staring at somebody who doesn't fit that
Right.
requirement, so like.
Right, no, it
You
is
know,
absolutely true that our acting chief would not be eligible to be chief. Acting chief does not have the same criteria, but would not, and
No, but
deputy
like-
does not have the same criteria.
Why knock out high quality people that live in Westchester? There's a
Yep.
fear of voter backlash. It's like we do everything, like, I'm like, we do everything out of feet, not us, but like, it seems like there's a temperature of, we don't wanna do station studies because we don't wanna show people what it might eventually cost, right?
This
We don't
didn't,
We don't
no,
wanna put New York on there because we're fearful it might not get through. Like, let's be bold here and try and get it through. Like, I think about how many former chiefs possibly live in Westchester County from New York City
I
that
understand.
we could like get a look at, they would come interview.
Maybe it's a deputy or assistant.
Well,
county.
and
If you want-
I
You know what I'm saying? Like,
understand,
right? So we
and
can,
if you as the commissioner members wanna push back, that we strongly feel.
I do.
Okay, so I can live with contiguous counties too deep.
And then
My guess
say,
is
and
that's
throw in
what
something like
Alex is saying.
that must be connected to Fairfield through like the same landmass or something, so you knock out Long Island.
Well, if you say.
The way to put that in a legal-
Contiguous counties is automatically.
Okay, there you go.
Contiguous
Okay.
counties, 2D Connecticut resident would take us to Westchester.
No,
Which
but
is why we
My
originally
attorney,
did it.
my attorney
Connecticut
colleague.
resident would take out Westchester.
exactly.
You wanna make the unscrupulous sea captain argument when he dropped off the European in Ireland in Cork and said, well, America's the next county over.
My argument is I wouldn't want Chief, Roger or Pat Barry to not be able, if they wanted to apply for a chief job down the road because they decide to live in Portchester instead of Greenwich. I mean, that to me seems kind of ridiculous.
Commission, I'm open to where you want to take this. I told the CRC commissioners and reiterated with the chair that I expected that the commission was going to come back on this one. And that I would let them know once we had a consensus, and I actually just passed out the start of draft language so that we can make these resolutions that we sent.
Contiguous county. So I guess contiguous counties without the state residency requirement. I think we might
Okay,
allow
one,
there.
two, Liam?
Yeah.
Okay,
Ginny.
Wait a minute, yeah.
is she still there? Ginny, are you on?
So we have to be careful that they take an act.
Okay,
Yes.
Ginny, you're on mute if you're on. She may have had to
The
disconnect.
finance meeting got Zoom bombed. Someone told some, we just wanted to make sure we didn't, but I don't, it's on ours.
Can you
Very,
hear me, Dorothy? I'm sorry.
Now we can. Did you hear the conversation about?
Oh, indeed I did. I am of the mind thought contiguous counties and that language thereof, okay?
Okay, contiguous counties, no residency, no
Correct.
Connecticut.
I've
Okay,
listened to
I
all of the verbiage. Very good.
Yes. So what I'd like is, number one, a motion, be it resolved, the fire commission, in addition to earlier submission, endorses the following change to the Fairfield charter. And I'll pick up residency, contiguous counties, too deep, no Connecticut.
Yeah, just, yeah, continue, it would still be the second optional bullet there, just
Yes.
scratch the residency requirement.
Yep.
So contiguous counties and they're contiguous counties.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't, and in terms of a political
Yeah.
issue, it doesn't specify one state or the other, so hopefully that keeps it from being a political issue.
Yep, thank you. I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next. In her comments, sort of in writing, but also in the meeting, HR Director Simpson was stating that she didn't think it was appropriate that the fire commission was involved in any disciplinary action. It's only happened a couple times in my 12 years, guys. And the other one, by the way, was that we were active in extending sick leave, and was complaining about that in context of the charter, except it's not in the charter. And I pointed out that where it came from is the union contract, which HR negotiates and we have no control over. And that it was up to them to change and not up to the fire commission. No resolution needed, just needed to make sure you understood that. It was an interesting conversation. So that's the one on the fire commission. This goes back to a change we recommended to them. We suggested using oversight, taking out the resident statement. HR Director Simpson objected. I don't know whether they've taken a sense of the commission vote yet, but they seem to agree with this approach and that oversight was okay. But I don't know that they've actually taken the sense of the commission vote.
The logic here is there's nobody in the operational chain of command, nobody is qualified or an active firefighter, it's an appropriate oversight is more
Right.
appropriate word for a policy body, and that's about it.
Exactly. And that's what we talked about. Oh, this is the most interesting one. In her submittal on January 21st, 25, you can read the entire thing on the CRC public comments. I can't go into it. It's 2 pages that goes in different directions. But it was objecting to the interview and hiring process. So, and by the way, to our credentials to serve on this body, that we don't have the expertise in. And in this one, because he was available at the time, Commissioner Finneran was very helpful to me. I described our backgrounds and what expertise we bring, including all of our backgrounds in hire, fire, terminate, all of that kind of stuff. I described and used some of Commissioner Finneran's quotes about his passion, what he sees our role in. And I greatly appreciate the input because it helped me put that together. And I then described in great detail our interview process. So from soups to nuts to the point where we actually do an appointment and the chief sends off the conditional employment letter and notifies the police chief and notifies HR. And in that letter, there is language that says, please make, at your earliest convenience, please contact HR and set up, file your papers, file your things. Several of the CRC commissioners got into this question and they were trying to get a very straight, simple answer. They had trouble doing that. But ultimately, Ms. Simpson indicated that her role in processing the fire department hires is to rubber stamp the hire. She indicated she does not perform the normal HR functions of completing a personnel related background, getting the normal releases to the town so the town can obtain information. And furthermore, when one of the commissioners proposed the what happens if you discover something and do you notify the commission, she said that if a potential employee were arrested or convicted, she would not bring that information back to the fire commission. She indicated that she's been operating this way since she was hired. If you want to go look at the video, go forward to 1 hour and 9 minutes, and that's where this conversation occurs. I was flabbergasted. And made it clear to the commission that this HR not doing their part of the hiring process was not at our direction and until that night, not with our knowledge. And that it was our understanding and expectation that she was fulfilling her role in terms of background releases, et cetera. And that it would absolutely be because I haven't talked to you all, but I would think it'd be all of you, that she would bring any issues back identified to the fire commission promptly. In following up with Chief Dunn, the letter, as I said, is very clear. Go see HR right away. We assume the trigger. I had raised the issue with the chief that is there enough time in our timeline or do we need to start to interview a little earlier in order to accommodate? Well, from the point he sends the letter, and Chief may want to jump in at a point, there is 6 to 8 weeks before we actually finalize a hire. So there is plenty of time to do all of the residency. The chairman, Chris DeWitt, did a very good job once they heard all of this dirty laundry. And by the way, the other thing that came out as part of this discussion was one of the commissioners asked me, because I said something like, all of this worked well until the current administration's difficulties, I think was my word. And left it at that, because I was trying not to embarrass people in public. And so the commissioner swung back, quoted my language to me, and he said, did you think the difficulties were that they wanted more input into the hiring process and to be more involved in each term? And I said, no, and took a deep breath and Liam was on this, by the way, and I do appreciate you had such last minute notice. Liam, Commissioner Burke was on the call the entire time. It was a painful 2-hour plus call.
So I mean.
Wait.
there's more.
And so I said, and this is all on the record, when he asked me whether I thought that was the difficulty, I said, no. The difficulty was that neither First Selectman Gerber or HR Director Simpson would return calls or emails to the chair. And then I subsequently followed up to try to help, and they would not return phone calls. They would not meet with us to try to work out whatever it is they needed so we could address that. And so we had been in an impasse for a year. So they had all that background as they were sorting through it. And at this point, Commissioner DeWitt does a very good job and tries to parse what's a charter issue and what's other stuff. And that was helpful, and moved on to this section, which is based on the current language in the charter. The words say we have sole power to appoint and promote to all positions and departments, and all in the last year when HR Director Simpson would say, we need to follow town policies, et cetera. And I would sit here and say, yes, absolutely. Never once did she indicate what she was missing. In fairness, this makes it sound like it's okay for us to just go off and do on our own. So we kicked around language, and I indicated I thought the commission would be very approachable about language. And so starting with the word have sole power, subject to Fairfield's town policy, regulations, state and federal law, and the commissioner's oath of office to appoint and promote all positions within the department. And that to me made sense, that we thought we were subject to that. So it's not actually a change in operations. I'm seeing nods. Commissioner Crayon, do you have anything to add that you are questions?
No, I would ditto what's being said,
Okay.
okay?
What's this? I got nods on the far ends.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue is if we're the appointing authority now, right, we're not comfortable with the process that's taken place beforehand, and that we could subject the town to some sort of liability or issue.
Yeah, if we're sole appointment,
Yeah.
a rogue commission could do something. And we've always operated as though we are subject to all of the things listed. So why not list them?
Right, it'd be wildly inappropriate not to. I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay, so I could use a resolution starting with number 1 that adopts this language.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, done. Then here's an interesting thing, and it's an observation on my failure. In reviewing the charter, I focused mostly on our pain points. I didn't necessarily read the entire charter. I didn't, and I should have. So paragraphs 4 and 5, which are listed up there, say to determine the qualifications for each rank. This is the fire commission, to determine the qualifications for each rank and grade in the fire department. Never done that to my knowledge. And number 5, within the limits of the appropriations made for that purpose, determine the number of persons employed by the department and of the several ranks and grades in their compensation. Again, to my knowledge, we've never done that.
Isn't that done by the budget?
Yeah, it's done by the budget and HR and the fire department staff who have a better sense of this. And I was like, well, I was apologetic and explained my pain points reference and said, I agree they ought to come out. So the question is, do you agree they ought to come out? Because they're day-to-day management supervision stuff, and we don't see that as our role.
Right,
Question, where does number 4 come from now?
It's in the charter.
The qualification for each one?
Yeah, no, it says we determine the qualifications.
No, that's what I mean. I apologize for a poorly crafted question. What's happening in reality?
In reality, there's language in the contract that says certain qualifications, if you want to promote to lieutenant, you have to have so much time and grade. So there's things like that. There's also qualifications are really art training to what we would train our lieutenants to if we determine our lieutenants need, this course, incident safety officer, fire instructor 1, fire marshal, et cetera. So we kind of determine that with the standards, the NFPA standards or anything that's out there. So it probably isn't something that's relevant that you would want to saddle yourselves with, really.
Between the NFPA and a contract that we have no authority to supersede, that's not appropriate.
Yes.
I wonder if that, I know like language is language, so, but I wonder if that was meant to say determine they are meeting the qualifications. If that was thrown in, hold on, that would actually play to what we really do. We're the oversight to make sure like that, no offense, but like somebody's not hooking up a crony to say, hey, we'll just make you lieutenant. The Board of Finance, are they proving they're overseeing this stuff anyway? She's not even doing her HR responsibilities. That's actually why we're in place. We're here, hold on, we're here to administratively make sure as civilian oversight as people that are just passionate about this town, passionate about our emergency services, that we're the checkpoint to say, oh yeah, no. So I would say if we change the language on that, I don't want, listen, if stuff,
Sure.
they will gladly take everything they can away from this. We're not, that's, as of right now, that's what we're supposed to be doing. I'm happy to do that.
But think about the practical of what happens is that's negotiated in the contract.
Doesn't matter. That's the town charter. They screw up a contract. That's not our fault. I would like these gentlemen and women that are gonna be there to come to us on a monthly, quarterly basis, say, hey, by the way, folks, these are the people that we think are appropriate, and then we line it up against what qualifications they should be meeting. So we know that there's nobody skipping a beat, there's nobody missing a step there, there's no pat on the back. Right, not that any of you guys would do that, but the next group that comes in that are total,
But by contract, we don't have the authority to do that.
So I think what he's
I
saying
don't-
is, if the contract stipulates the qualifications, it's merely the oversight function. So ensure the
Yes.
qualifications for each rank and grade in the fire department are met. Basically, we're just ensuring that
Yes.
somebody's meeting. the
That's what I would
top
say.
qualifications.
Okay,
And then we can scrap 5.
Liam, could you see that, like?
Yeah, no, I see that, and I think the ensure.
the RMET is,
Yeah.
Yeah, just
I think
ensuring.
that's good.
That's the oversight function. Again, that takes us
Yeah,
out of
no,
management.
good catch, good way to think about it.
I have to go look at all his paperwork now for the last 43 years, sorry.
So we recognize- so-
RMET is the language around number 4,
Do we need 5?
and then do we need 5?
Limits are no.
I think that should still come to us like as a report. I think that should go into the report that this, like, chief, I envision like, say like 2 months, 3 months now, knowing this town, 6 years now, this is all finally figured out. You come to us and say like the staffing of the department is supposed to be 106, and I want to report to the commission that we have 104 bodies, and just think about how much cleaner that makes every meeting, what we're doing. We're not running, we're always running around for numbers of like, we're all upset that they pulled the hiring from us last June, because we're worried about us having a shortfall of the town. We got the union saying, no, we're good, but nobody's telling us. I don't know. I don't know what our
Well, and
real
we've done
manpower
things
should be,
like on
and I don't want to
fire.
give that to the Board of Finance or that's not their function. Their function is to pay it. We're there to ensure that the bodies are there to service the job.
Well, and we've stepped in on things like advocating more fire marshal staff
Yeah.
and more firefighters.
But I would love it for it to be like, this is what we're supposed to have as a staffing requirement. And I know we're never gonna, but we'll know how far off we are.
Mhm.
And then so it becomes a normal routine of what we're doing here.
So what's the language change in 5?
The word determine is the one that we really
Right,
don't.
it's the wrong
So-
word.
Yeah.
Is a better term than that, maybe, ensure or, something like that, because it's
Advocate
more, analyze
So
or.
to within the limits of approach you made for that purpose.
Because otherwise, right now theoretically, the commission could vote and determine that we need to have 4 firefighters per fire engine.
Right.
now.
Right.
Or
In
two,
accordance with
or
that, yeah.
two per
Right.
fire engine, you know, so,
What
yeah.
about oversee?
But oversee is still a hard word.
Yeah, so it's.
Well, and we have oversight anyway in the original language that looks like it's gonna survive.
Mm-hmm.
the
Who
change we made.
determines, who actually does determine the number?
The contract to the minimums, but anything past that is negotiations, whatever, and then the budgetary process, because we have to go through all the boards and have them say, if we wanted an extra person on engine 4, we would have to go through all the boards. So it's the budgetary process.
So I guess the question is, so the town charter, I think, is the governing document at the base of everything, right? So if the commission were to come in and vote and say, hey, the minimums in the contract are insufficient, it would essentially tell the town they have to renegotiate a contract with the union for more firefighters. But, I mean, it would be up to an attorney, I think, to interpret that, but my understanding is that that is the overall governing document to which everything reports, correct? Chief, I think, again, it's up to an attorney, I'm not asking for a legal.
Well, the
The contract,
says
yeah,
the minimums.
yeah, contracts does say the minimums, yeah.
So in theory, if we want a rig,
Contravening them, yeah, but,
I think it's more along the insurer are met, that it's the same
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, Liam, what would you say? What would be the great language?
Limits of the
Not to
person.
put you on the spot, but.
Maybe ensure the number of persons employed by the department of and the civil ranks are sufficient for the town's needs.
Per the most recent contract, right, or something like that, so.
I think, I mean, you could hire more than the contract has a minimum hiring.
correct, we do, yeah.
We could hire more. And so if we thought there weren't enough, we could say, we need to hire more, and I don't think the union's gonna object to that.
what's the
Right.
minimum statutory, do we know what the minimum statutory staffing is by law?
I don't think there is one.
I don't think there is a
NFPA is not
statutory,
a
there's the
No, that's what I'm
NFP
saying.
stuff,
Yeah,
yeah,
so I'm saying NFPA will advocate for more, but I didn't know if there was a minimum set by law for.
no. And even the NFP becomes murky in the sense that, given the designations of dense population, it potentially drives more staffing.
So the scenario would be if we get a rogue body in town, and one of the other bodies that decides not to put a sufficient number of folks in, that we would lose our ability to say something.
I think like.
It's
even-
a far-flung
Listen.
scenario, but
Right.
that's basically.
Like
what it
I
is.
joined
right.
during the union
Mm-hmm,
arbitration,
Right.
former first select person, it's a nightmare, right?
right,
So we could then act as a guiding, be like, hey, this is like, so if everybody really went rogue there, we could be like, well, no, this is the minimum of what we need.
It should advise, advise the town, because this way you're advising because you're taking this in and saying, I've talked to all of these people and we'd advise you to add somebody here or whatever. And that's a nice clean way of doing it without interfering in the budgetary process.
Yeah, because it says within the limits of the appropriation, so
Yeah.
whatever the money that's been allotted, we can't touch that, so we can't force additional hires, basically, we would essentially cause everybody to have to go down in salary by. That doesn't sound ideal. I think we beat this thing to death. What do you-
well, I don't know what language you want.
what do you wanna keep?
So one of the things I grabbed, not catching the last thing the chief said, within the limits of the appropriations made for that purpose, the number of persons employed by the department and of several ranks and grades in their compensation are sufficient to meet the needs of the
I
town.
think you're saying
Advise
so.
on weather, advise the first selectman on weather.
I think so, get rid of determine and advise. Advise, instead of determine.
Advise.
Yeah, it becomes an advice function.
The number of persons employed, advise first selectman.
I would put something that, I would put something in there that should be reported to the fire commission on a quarterly basis. Something along those lines, so like,
We don't put that kind of detail in the charter. We can direct the chief to report to us quarterly. But that's a level of detail they're trying to get out of the charter, because
Okay.
there's some day-to-day management kinds of stuff that gets in there. So within the limits of the appropriations made for that purpose, advise the first selectman on the number of persons employed by the department and of the several ranks and grades and their compensation to
And whether that is sufficient for the town's need.
I would, I understand what the charter's trying to do. I would put a requirement of some type of reporting there to us. Cause we're like here to show up, have numbers reported to us, advise people on it. Like, I don't have the capacity as a civilian volunteer
Mhm.
to go and if there's nothing in there, like if we get a terrible chief or if we get somebody who wants to play funny business with us, they're gonna do that. So I would on a yearly basis then. Like, I quite frankly, I don't, I appreciate what they're trying to do. I don't care about that. Like, I care about this commission, right? Like, we want what we want here. And we wanna be able to, cause we're gonna act on, we've proven we're acting on stuff. We're proving
Oversight.
we're looking for progress, not perfection, and we've been delivered paralysis. And that's what we've been delivered.
That's phrasing.
That is very.
Right?
Because the other
Well
thing,
put.
the other thing this language leaves that's absolutely ridiculous is again, if a commission down the road decided, hey, we're gonna jack up everybody's pay, but we're gonna reduce the number of firefighters in town, because we get to determine that, which again is wildly inappropriate for what we'd be doing.
Right. So within the limits of the appropriations made for that purpose, advise the first selectman on the number of persons employed by the department of the several ranks and grades and their compensation. And whether it is sufficient to meet the town's needs. I have to work that in.
Yeah.
The issue is the reporting that Michael was.
I think that's right too, because on the grades, the compensation side, right, so we have to run the searches for chief engineers and everybody else, and through that process, comp will come up and other things, so it's appropriate, I think, for us to advise that back.
The reporting question.
How you wanna phrase that?
The fire chief. Shall provide,
Give the chief a lot of work.
Quarterly update.
you need it quarterly or, yeah,
Well, I just threw it out, you're saying that might be, like, I don't wanna like upset them, but maybe or even on an annual basis, it's fine. We can have that meeting be centered around that.
Before the budget process. Just once a year.
It's just a clean way to do it, and they give us those numbers. We have a more vibrant commission now. We'll react to them. I don't know what we're doing with them. We can report it back. Or as like people get more versed on this commission with stuff like that, you're like, oh, wait a minute, that number doesn't make sense. Like, hold on.
The fire chief shall report shall provide annual updates as part of the preparation, if the annual budget preparation.
That's great.
Okay. That's the motion, do I have a first and a second? Ginny, did you want to make any additions?
No, I think that sounds reasonable. I like what I'm hearing.
I need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed, we're good. And one other thing, there were some conflicting comments made about ethics and conflict of interest. He didn't cite anything specific about us, but indicated that there was no safeguards. And I think it's perfectly appropriate for me to sign an ethics statement and an annual conflict of interest statement. I don't have any problem with that. So the question under consideration is whether, sorry for the typo up there, whether we want to say anything about the CRC considering adding a requirement that to the charter that all board and commission members be required to sign an ethics statement and or file an annual conflict of interest statement.
Is that
If you're
something-
elected, you have to. If you're a volunteer appointed, you're not.
Okay, so is every other commission being asked to?
No, I'm saying, and she made noises but didn't ask specifically for us. And I think it ought to be for all commission, that this would be
Agreed.
a comment from us, that you guys change it at the global level,
Yeah,
and that we think it's a good idea to change it.
sure.
Aren't we subject to the ethics rules anyways?
Yeah, but nobody has to sign them.
I mean, if you have a problem with signing an ethics statement or a conflict of
Yeah,
interest. that
you don't
sounds kind of
belong on our-
weird. You don't
It speaks
belong here. I have no issue with this at all, putting one in there.
Yeah, I just don't wanna do it for the, I think everybody should do it.
No, it's, this is universal, this is not for the fire commission.
I feel singled out by
Yes.
by our
Yes.
current administration, so like,
Just you, Mike.
Yeah. We're like literally paralyzed here with trying to improve the headcount of our fire department. We're running around in circles and it's like,
Yeah, and the commission was not discussing it in the context of just that.
and nobody's had a problem with like this civilian authorities having some responsibilities over, like, elected officials here have a responsibility to get more votes.
Right.
The union, we love them. They're meant to protect the interests of the firefighters. This group here is meant to protect the interests of the town, the firefighters, and the quality of life of the people living here with the best deal we can offer for them. That's what we're here for. And if people are trying to erode that from us, you gotta look at them. They keep looking at us. I'm not signing nothing. Make them sign everything, then we'll sign everything.
Right. Yeah, no, this was in the context that the commission talked about it, it was for everybody. It was a universal, and that would be the recommendation language. You guys good with that?
No, you know what I'm saying?
Jenny,
Yeah.
are you okay with that?
I'm perfectly okay with it because for the record on the other, Michael, you can know this, we're all taking an oath, as Dorothea indicated. We should be part of this. We should have no trouble in filing ethics and discussing it because we are elected and take an oath. I have no issue with it. I think it's a good idea.
We're
Jenny,
appointed.
Jenny, there's some very valuable times in my life. One, getting married, birth of my 5 children, and then taking an oath of service to this town with you. With you by my side.
And frankly, Michael, it separates us from the rest. Look at it that way. And when our head commissioner decides to address it, it will be addressed at the appropriate way because we have signed or because we're involved in a statement. And I think it can become powerful, and there's nothing wrong in asking us to be part of it.
I mean, my guiding principle for this, I've approached it with is there should be no language or anything in there that provides an opportunity for anybody on the commission to interfere with the operational chain of command, because we have absolutely no business being involved with that whatsoever.
Yep.
It should strengthen and codify oversight. Right, and like you said, the taxpayers, the firefighters, and the public safety. Other than that, anything else that's in there should not be in there at all.
I ditto that. Excellent.
So if you're on agreement on the adding a requirement for all board and commission members to be required to sign an ethics statement and or file an annual conflict of interest statement, then can I get a motion?
Motion.
Okay, second,
Ginny, I second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, no nays. I'll take care of getting those out. I can't guarantee this weekend. It is St. Patrick's Day and my birthday, not gonna happen. I'm all done. That takes care of charter, and we're on to new business. Thank you all very much.
Good stuff.
We have a list. Who is going to speak to the list?
I could. So, since March 3rd, March 4th were the written examinations for assistant chief and lieutenant respectively. And the next day after that, March 5th, was the oral examination for assistant chief. 5 people took that exam, 3 passed, and we have a list in name order. Justin Greenhaw, Lee Corbo, and Jeff Pinkney. And number 1, Justin Greenhaw is over there with Melissa. I'd like to say hello.
Congratulations on doing so well.
Good job.
So this week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we had the oral examinations for a lieutenant. So I think 31 people signed up for the test, and 20 eventually passed and made this list. And I'll read in order for fire lieutenant: Brian Madia, Dominic Cochia, Rob Luis, George Heath, Nicholas LaCroix, Matt Strebe, Tyler Prescott, Peter Ayub, Jeff Donito, John Gamola, Derek Paulis, Hugh Dolan, Thomas Rubenstein, Scott Iannucci, Kyle Smith, Mark Smuda, Justin Renda, Mackie Haller, Eric Hubble, and Joseph Estudi. Now, we'd like to promote, so the list tonight, we would ask you to promulgate the list. We would like to promote 4 lieutenants because there are lieutenants vacancies right now, effective March 22,
Let's take them separately.
2025, yes.
Let's take a vote and promulgate the list first, please.
I would like to make a motion to support the list as written.
Second,
Second.
any comments, commissioners?
Good approach.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And now we have appointment for 4 vacancies. I don't have the language we normally use. Sheila, can you use our normal language? And you guys somebody make a motion in second that the language will be based on what we've used past times.
I move that we pursuant to our customary language, promote 4 lieutenants effective March 22nd, 2025, and they would be the first 4
First 4 on the
people
list, yes.
on the list: Brian Maida, Dominic Cochia, Rob Louise, and George Heath.
Correct.
And a second.
I seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And congratulations to all of those. Thank you for being here.
Some of them are online, so.
Okay,
congratulations to those of you
congratulations
who
to
are
all
on.
of you. Any public comment?
I do have one one item of new business.
Okay,
So, and that
Oh,
was,
yes.
and that was to send a letter to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and RTM advocating for the station repairs. This has been a consistent process of patching, or whatever word we'd like to.
Whack-a-mole.
Yeah, patching, whack-a-mole, whatever. You know, for a number of years, the conditions are not appropriate and for our firefighters, and that they need to be fixed, and request that they appropriate the correct amount of money to fix all of those issues this year, because it's gone on for too long, and it's unfair to the working conditions of firefighters.
and a second for that.
Second.
And we're gonna grab the language from the recording, Sheila. Please. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now, no other new business? Public comment? We have no other action, so motion for adjournment.
I'll motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Meeting.